Okay. Hey, welcome everybody. This is Todd, Hurricane Outdoor. That is Jeremy. Today we have with us Mr. Chancy K&K Taxidermist and his right-hand man and sidekick, Kolby. So welcome, guys, to the podcast. Jeremy, these guys went to Missouri.
Yeah. Chancy did.
I stayed at the shop and worked.
Kolby
Hey, see, that's what I'm talking about, right-hand man right there. Kolby pulling all up the labor.
Yeah, somebody had to keep it up and going. His mama's learned that she likes to shoot things with a bow and arrow too, so she kind of goes with me a little bit now versus him. So.
That's good. That's good. So you grew out of being a young man that goes on the trips.
Yeah, we got another one scheduled
good.
though. Me and him's going back up in November, so hopefully we'll catch him rutting a good bit.
Okay.
So, but this trip it was a little bit dry. You know, we went for opening day and it hadn't rained up there in a while. Had cracks in the
Where'd
ground.
y'all go exactly?
Up around Bates and Vernon County. It's kind of up northwest a little bit. It's a little old, couple different public lands there. They got several of them, Peabody, and got a National Guard base and stuff like that. But it's mainly bow hunting. They don't have any gun hunting. So, but it was dry, and my wife was able to get a doe, her first actual bow kill. So she was excited, but just dry weather, little rough conditions, you know. So,
Gotcha.
maybe next time.
Yeah, but y'all are going back up. You said maybe a rut hunt or something like that. Y'all got another trip planned?
Yeah, me and Kobe's going in November. We thinking hard about maybe first time ever. We've always bow hunted, and I've been fortunate enough to kill a couple decent deer. He stuck one a couple years ago we couldn't find, but this year we're thinking about going to a different place, maybe trying to do a little rifle hunting.
Okay.
A little bit further up reserve and catch that rut, maybe some big agriculture fields and catch a few doe coming in, maybe get some horns with the rifle. Where we go and bow hunt, you know, if we rifle hunt it, we'd have a big taxidermy bill.
Right.
Because bow hunting.
I know a guy, by the way.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, hopefully in November we'll come back with some pretty good Missouri deer. It's the first time we've ever took our rifles.
Gotcha.
Looking forward to it.
So you kill a deer up there, big boy. You bring him home or you have it done up there?
Oh, I bring him home, but I own a taxidermy
I understand.
business.
I understand. So a guy goes up there hunting and he kills one and he wants to bring it home. What does he do?
It's very simple, man. What you need to do is either take it by a taxidermist location, normally for $25, $50, maybe $75. They'll stop what they're doing and cape it out right there for you. Takes a good taxidermist. It takes me 7 minutes. Takes Kobe about 6 or 7 minutes. Good taxidermist shouldn't have it more than 15, 20 minutes, and he'll package it for you and send it on your way, 100% legal, your antlers and your cape. However, if there's no taxidermist around or you don't want to do it that way, I put out videos every year between Louisiana deer hunters, my Facebook page, maybe this year YouTube video or something, but normally we'll do a caping out video, how to basically set your deer head up there after you've skinned it out and do a Y incision, cape out the deer, keep the hide, throw the meat and the head and the skull away, cut your antlers off, clean the meat off of them, and bring it back to the States, and that way it's fully legal. A lot of people do it. We answer the phone as much as we can. Saturdays and Sundays normally is when people will call. They're hunting and want to skin out their deer, so we'll try to walk it through you or at least tell you how to find my video. This year we're probably going to do another video, maybe a couple videos of how to do it. But in the past couple of years, a lot of people have learned you can take your deer to a taxidermist wherever you're at, pay them $50, $75. They'll cape it out, package it, send you on your way. You bring it to us at that point. And what we've done in the past is we knock off $50 off our price if you bring in a deer that was caped out of state.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Just try to reimburse people a little bit, you know, make it worth their while. So basically that's how you do it.
Now, you said a couple times, like, to make it legal, right? And I think I understand why you've said it like that. But some people who haven't hunted out of state a lot or are unaware of it, there's a reason why.
CWD.
Right? CWD. And most states now, you can't cross state lines with,
That's
say,
correct.
is it bone or like explain
So
that
it's
a little bit for
brain and spinal cord.
brain and spinal cord. Okay.
Brain and spinal cord is what we've been told, and this took place about 2 years before we built our new place in Reeves. So it's been in effect for about 7 or 8 years probably.
Right.
So used to it didn't matter, but now CWD's taken over, and you have to basically cape your deer out and cut your antlers off.
Gotcha.
You know.
Yeah. So like last year, I went to Illinois, and I killed 2 deer up there, and we completely deboned the whole deer before we came down.
Yeah.
Now, is that usually necessary, like completely deboning it, or is it just brain and spinal matter?
I'm not sure. You about
Depends on the state, or
I've heard just brain and spinal cord. If you can semi-cape out your deer and cut the back of the skull and pull all that brain out, that's you can cross state lines with that.
Okay.
It ain't like the face they're not wanting to cross.
right? Yeah.
Which doesn't matter.
We've had them come in different ways, and I've talked to game wardens. I'm friends with game wardens and stuff on Facebook, and work kind of hand in hand with them a little bit. But a lot of people in the past has laid open the back of their deer, like what I talk about, a Y incision, to where you can get a sawzall in there, and they will cut the back of the brain out, the back of the skull, and take a pressure washer or high-powered water hose or whatever, and spray all that brain and everything out. And at that point, you're bringing your head without a brain, still partially on
Like
the
most
skull.
of our citizens.
Yeah.
So that way,
But,
if you're not comfortable with caping out yourself,
Right.
your eyes and everything, that's for us to do.
Gotcha.
You can without tearing any of that up, as long as you cut
Gotcha.
the brain out.
Yeah.
But honestly, the best thing to do is look at get a pamphlet, whatever state you're in, and look into it and try to just follow the guidelines.
Yeah. So just like anything, it's the hunter's responsibility to know the regs.
Right. 100%. Yep.
You get pulled over, you get asked a question, game warden stops you, and, well, I didn't know. They're going to give you a slide, right? The answer's no.
They're wearing
They're not.
they're wearing green now.
Yeah, I don't. Most of them I know. No.
Yeah, no. So that's
Mr.
important.
Green
'cause
Pants.
at the point of filming this, bow season in our area opens tomorrow.
Correct.
So, guys, read through your regs.
Yep.
Make sure you understand everything.
So bow season's tomorrow?
Bow season's tomorrow. Todd, you own a bow
It's
shop. You ought to know
bow
that,
season's
huh?
tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
If you need a bow, I know a guy.
Yeah, I do too. I know a couple guys. So, but yeah, that's the best thing to do. And like I said, one more time, we normally every year we put out a video of how to cape out your deer. A lot of people contact us about it, and I'll be happy to share my video with anybody that needs one.
So, while you're up there in Missouri, what do they feed up there?
I don't know if there's much feed bought up there.
But just because of natural habitat?
Yes, cornfields, soybean fields everywhere. I mean, it's the whole state's covered in lots of agriculture.
So how do you determine where's a good spot? That was curveball, ladies and gentlemen.
Rain helps. Good
Rain?
good trails.
Yeah.
If you can find a beat down muddy trail,
Yeah.
put your stand there.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere in Missouri is good. I mean, I've hunted years ago. We went way up north near the Iowa line and seen tons of deer. You know, we hunt the west side, we hunt the middle. You know, we've hunted different reserves and stuff. It's all good. I mean, it's deer everywhere.
So what's the big difference in Missouri versus, say, Louisiana, other than the temperature?
Have you ever tasted the deer meat from up there?
Yes, I have.
It's
Yeah.
To me, it's better. But body size, my wife killed a doe a couple of days ago in Missouri, and I didn't weigh it, didn't have a scale, but I guarantee you this deer weighed 165 pounds. Probably about a 3 or 4 year old doe. I mean, that's our average size bucks around here. You know, I guess during a main rut, you catch a 3 or 4 year old deer, it could weigh a little more. But our main deer around here is 150, 160 pounds
That's right.
for a big buck.
Yeah.
So,
Well, a difference between northern deer and deer down here is like, I'm sure everybody knows a guy named Tim Wells on the
Yep.
Pursuit channel.
Yeah.
I've met him. I got to meet him and talk to him in person. And he said, I got to give it to you, Louisiana guys. Y'all hunt the smartest deer in the United States. He's like, the more north you get, the more dumb they are. The more south you get, the more
You know why that
very,
is,
very
right?
smart.
Because everybody down here has a gun and they all shoot at deer.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a good point.
It
I'm
is a
glad
great
you brought
point.
it up.
Yeah.
You know, up there, 3 or 4 o'clock, you want to get in your stands, pretty early, because 3 or 4 o'clock, I mean, you could have deer walk out at any time. For example, my wife killed her doe at 5 o'clock a couple of days ago in Missouri, and it don't get dark up there like it does here about 8 o'clock. So 3 hours before dark, deer's out moving, hunting here. And I'm not knocking Louisiana. I've hunted here my whole life, but normally you're going to kill a deer at most 30 minutes before dark.
Right.
I mean, so, but it's a big difference. It ain't for everybody. We drove 10 and a half, 11 hours, and there's a lot of people that won't do that for a deer. And then there's people who will, so.
Now, I'm going to bring it back to the taxidermy side of things, if that's okay. What can I do? Killed a stud. I'm in Missouri, Illinois, Nebraska, Iowa, something like that, right? Killed a stud. I've decided I can't find a taxidermist or whatever where I'm at, so I'm gonna have to, take care of it myself. What are some helpful tips that you can give? What are some things that can make that difference between you've done the best you can as a taxidermist and I've just screwed it up so much that you can't fix it?
I'm glad you asked
What
that,
What are
Jeremy.
some things that I can do to give you a better chance as a taxidermist to give me a good quality product?
I'm glad you asked that. One of our biggest battles as a taxidermist and every other taxidermist in the world, wherever you at, whatever you're mounting, is 90% of people will hang a deer upside down and skin it that way. Years ago people would hang them from the neck, but nowadays most people hang them upside down. So where we battle is I got Kolby in here. He can verify. One of our other taxidermists are here with us today, shopping around at Hurricane Outdoors. But
Love the plug.
when you hang a deer upside down, you look at it, you think mid belly. I'm gonna ring that, and that's gonna be plenty to mount. Well, nowadays taxidermy deer forms and everything has really gotten bigger, better, more natural, more muscle tone, just bigger mounts. Used to a shoulder mount was a little bitty old neck and head. Nowadays it's all about the body size. So when you ring that animal, that deer, around what you think's plenty, I'm sure people who's watching this has skinned deer. When you ring it, that shrinks, that falls down. Next thing you know, you bring it to us, and we're trying to stretch it over one of these big forms, and we're having to really pull just to get it to pull around. So best advice I can give is you either skin out and bring your whole cape, or whenever you think, when you're about to ring it, whenever you think you're good, go another foot up.
Okay.
Give plenty. I mean, give a lot. And then Kolby probably wants to tell you a little bit about the back legs.
So when you got it, if you're hanging it from the feet, the front legs will be, just sticking out. So down the back of that deer's leg is where white and brown come together. So wherever you ringed it around the belly button or midsection of the deer, you want to ring it around the deer's knees. So you ring around the knees, and you're going to see that white and brown follow all the way up. The stomach will be white, and the sides of the deer will be brown. That goes for the legs too. You want to cut up that white and brown line all the way from the knees, straight up that line all the way to where you ringed it around the stomach. And that's how you do the legs perfect. Taxidermists love when legs are cut like that.
Wow, I just learned something.
So
Deer have belly buttons.
yeah.
We met a lot of deer. I've never noticed the belly button.
So what we do, I do ours a little different. I'm not a taxidermist by any means, but what I do when I ring it, I pull it down, and I pull the legs through.
And a lot of people do.
That way we don't cut it. That way we let the taxidermist do all the cutting on it.
That's fine. That's probably more of our deer that come in are like that.
Yeah.
Because
Let me
people
say,
don't want to make a mistake.
If you do, like the way I said just now, when you ring it, a lot of times I forget it all the time. You start just bringing that hide down.
Yes.
It falls on top of your knees.
Mhm.
So if you are going to ring the knees and cut up that white and brown line, remember, when you ring your deer, don't haul that hide down. Leave it stuck to the deer and do all your cutting up the deer. Then you can bring it on down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to your point, Todd, if you want to just pull it all out, that's fine. We'll cut it. But basically what we're saying is you can't never have too much. We can cut what we don't need, throw it away. The biggest thing we fight and fuss with is not enough hide, and then these guys, they spend a lot of time sewing people's mistakes. You know, brisket area, you know, when you have to have a lot of brisket on a big 200-pound whitetail buck. These forms are big. You have to pull all that brisket around. Not only pull it around, but you have to have enough to pull in and staple. And then, you know, whitetail pedestal mounts are a new thing. You know, they've been out for years, but a lot of people now are doing a pedestal versus a basic mount. When you do a pedestal, you have to have even more hide. I mean, we have to bring that around and tuck it all the way around. So
Okay.
I try to tell people to bring as much cape as they can. So
Okay.
while we're talking about it, another point is years ago, I had to put a sign up in my shop that you need to inspect your deer. You know, we're dealing with wild animals here. They live out in the wild. They fight. They fuss. And if a deer's alive or just killed and it still has blood and meat and everything in it, you can't see little scabs or scars. Now, when we take that deer and we process it and we get all the hide, all the meat off and clean it, and then we stretch it over a form and it dries 2 weeks and we mount it, these scrapes and these scars and these fight marks, they become a lot more visible. So when I say inspect your deer, you know, take pictures of it, compare it to when you pick it up at our shop. But I've had people come in and say, well, I don't remember that scar. And me say, well, it was there. You know, we don't really work on the outside of the deer. Everything we do is on the inside. And I'll ask them to pull up their phone pictures. And I mean, if you zoom in, you can see some stuff. But examine your deer, look at it. They wild animals. They have bite marks, scar marks, you know, damage, stuff like that. So just look at your deer good. Take plenty of pictures of it.
So when you bring a deer in, you're talking about that, take pictures and what have you. So, you know, that guy, girl, whoever, they're excited, right? They just killed a big buck. And you know, you bring a deer in, and they'll have that dude back in 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks. They'll have their deer back.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Skull
That's
mounts,
awesome.
yeah.
So the timeline on it takes you guys to do that. You know, a lot of people don't understand about tanning. They don't understand about drying. They don't understand about what it takes. So what's a good rule of thumb on? I know business and being busy has a lot to do with it, but let's just say an average deer from start to go to know and to pay. How long does that take for you guys?
About 17 hours.
Okay.
Yep. From the time it comes in, skinning it out, caping it, processing it, you know, soaking it, everything we do, mounting it, letting it dry, finish work, putting hangers on it. We've worked it out. It's about 14, 16 hours, but it's over a 2.5 week period.
Right.
Because the deer has to dry for about 2 weeks. You know, you want it to be completely dried, shrunk up before you do any kind of epoxy work or finish work. So it takes a little while. And but back to what you were saying, skull mounts, European mounts, because a lot of people, we get asked a lot, why did I get my skull mount back in 2 weeks or a month, and my shoulder mount I dropped off, you're telling me 6 or 7 months? Well, the reason why is we cut the antlers off, not individually, but the skull cap with the antlers attached. We cut them off and hang them up in our shop, and we package the hide and freeze it. Therefore, a skull mount, you don't cut the antlers off. It's the whole skull attached. So if you think about, sometimes we get in 25, 30 skull mounts a day during the prime hunting season. Think about having to have a freezer big enough to stick all these heads in with horns attached. You kind of got to do the skull mounts immediately. So we have a guy that works on skull mounts pretty much every day from beginning of hunting season to the end of hunting season. And the shoulder mounts take a little bit longer, you know.
6 months to a year. On
That's
shoulder
right.
6
mounts.
months to a year.
That's
yeah.
right.
We've gotten busier and busier and busier, and we take in tons of deer, you know. And one thing I will tell you, some advice: you kill it. I understand people are crunched for time. Get it to us. It matters.
Don't say I'm gonna wait till the end of hunt season when he's not busy.
Yes.
No, you need to get in line. October, November deer, you need to get your deer in line, because if you come in January it's like hundreds are in front of you at that point.
So, but back to the timeline. One thing that I came visit your shop a couple months ago. We came in and just kind of hung around. People don't know about the artwork that it takes, the attention to detail. These guys airbrushing, painting. I saw a fish that was working on a fish. Somebody's working on a duck. Kobe's working on a deer, I believe it was. They don't understand the artwork that goes in. So tell us a little bit about the facial features. Kobe, the one that you was working on, I think it was an axis, if I remember correctly. I don't know. But, but what it takes to make that deer come alive.
It's a studio. It's called a studio.
Yeah.
So.
Years of how to shape clay with your fingers to build eyes. Our first year taxidermist, his eyes, you're going to probably be able to tell a little bit, just I could probably close my eyes and feel how to roll up clay to build an eye after, we've been doing this since 2009, since I was a little boy. And so that's a big part of every taxidermist. Every man will build an eye different than the next man. So that's your signature, the eyes on a deer mount. We taught the guys in our shop, and they're just slightly different. They look good, but you can tell they're just slightly. It's your signature.
Everybody's got their own.
I got different eyes than my dad.
Yeah. And I tell everybody we hire, once you learn this, I don't care what steps you take, as long as the end game's all the same.
Right.
Everything looks has that K&K touch to
A
it.
steady hand though, and patience.
Yeah.
Gotta have
and a lot
patience and a
goes
steady
into
hand.
it. A lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just they think about, I'm going to take my mount, whatever it is up there, and they're just going to pull out the insides and just stuff it, right? Well, there's a lot more to stuffing, a whole lot more.
I've seen some stuffed ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot.
Looks like you put an air hose in them.
Yeah, so it's a lot, and that's why it takes a little longer. And I went to a guy in Texas one time, and I was standing there and I was listening to him. Had a guy, and the guy was telling me, he said, "Man, but I need it back in a hurry." And the guy looked at him. He said, "It's going to look like that, sir."
Yeah.
So just be patient when you drop it off.
Yeah, and I don't know how every taxidermist does it. We got a pretty good system. You go in some taxidermy shops, there's one or two people in there, and they take a deer out, they flesh all their meat off themselves. That takes a half a day. They mount one deer, and I mean, one deer by yourself, if you do the fleshing and everything, is a long day. It's a process. However, we have two guys that are just mounting deer every day, and they normally do 2 deer a day. And the reason they can do that, and the reason we can turn out 500-600 deer a year, is because we also have a position for a girl that works with us that does just our fleshing. Her whole job in the shop is to just take deer hides and flesh, and we get to mount so many. My wife even has to jump in sometimes and flesh deer, but that takes away 3 or 4 hours per deer, so it allows them to do just the mounting, and we're able to get more deer done like that. Works out great for them. A lot of people don't do taxidermy because of the fleshing. That's the worst part
That's
of
extreme patience.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Anybody that's ever watched taxidermy videos and thought, man, that's a perfect job for me, they start out showing you how to flesh. That's where a lot of people go, pause, ain't doing that. The guy that actually taught me years ago, I'll give him a shout out. He's a retired federal game warden out of Fairdy, Louisiana, real good friend of mine, Mark Cupid. I owe him a lot of our success. He took me and my wife under his wings, and we kind of worked with him, become really good friends, and kind of traded work for knowledge. And he kind of taught us a little bit, but I give him all the credit, but he fleshed his own deer, and he was pretty quick, but it took him, even after years of doing it, an hour and a half, 2 hours to flesh out a deer before he mounted it. So these guys pretty lucky. They get to just mount deer, so not flesh.
So we talked a lot about deer. What's you guys that you do fish, you do ducks, you do quail, you do gators, you do all stuff.
Yep.
What I saw a big cat come out of there the other day. I mean, a big post on the big cat's gone. It's left the building. Which one of those are the most challenging for you guys?
Well, Jeremy here is good buddies with a guy named Brandon Pelt, and Brandon brought us something in years ago. We really didn't even know how to price it, but we come up with this price, and after doing it, we doubled our price plus some, and it was a porcupine, and my wife and Kolby here actually tackled it and did it. And let me tell you something. There's a spot about the size of a quarter on a porcupine that doesn't have quills, and that's right under his belly. The rest of it's quills. His tail, his head, and we had to invest in Kevlar gloves and needle nose long pliers to do all the sewing. And anyway, this is a true story. We think we charged Brandon like $400 to do it, full body mount on a porcupine, first one we ever did. And when we finished, after my wife swept up the quills and all that years ago, it was just us three working in the shop then. And she said, that's it. We're not doing them. She said, wait a minute. I don't want to tell the public we're not going to do them. We're just going to charge more. I said, well, what you going to charge, Melanie? She said, $1,000. I said, $1,000? She said, yep, and I hope they don't bring them. Since then, true story, she's told people the price. We've mounted 3 since then and got one in the freezer to do now. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah. I guess if they want it, they're going to pay for it, right?
Yeah, and God bless them. They are a pretty mount. It's pretty when it's done. But so the porcupine. What else?
To me, the worst thing is birds.
Yeah.
We have a duck woman does our ducks for us. Girls are more patient than men.
Yeah.
And so that's her specialty is ducks. And
shout
sometimes
out to Shayla.
sometimes she'll help get me to hold the wings for her while she places every feather perfect and tapes it. And most men just can't do that.
Yeah, my wife for years when we first started out, me and Kolby'd work on deer, and Melanie would do all of our ducks, and my wife's mounted a ton of them. I mean, for a long time. And it kind of got out that any of my friends that would come over, if they walked in the shop during the day and we were mounting deer or something, they'd hang out and visit. But if we were doing ducks, they'd walk in and look and go, catch y'all later. Because when I get involved with feathered animals, it's normally goes south.
Turkeys are
it takes
terrible.
a lot out of you. Yeah, it's pretty tough. So, but we did snakes for a long time. I didn't do snakes. And then we kept getting phone call, and I finally agreed to do some. But the guy that taught me taxidermy, Mark Cupid, years ago, he warned me that even after you take a snake and freeze it, a year, 2 years, whatever, you get it out of the freezer and you start the skinning process or whatever. If them fangs catch you, they still have venom on them. It still can get you. Maybe not like if it was alive and bit you, but it could still put you in the hospital. So with that being said, we did snakes. I probably wound up mounting 20, and one day I was skinning out one and it happened. I wasn't paying attention. Well, I was paying attention. Anytime I'm skinning out a rattlesnake head, I pay attention, but just a quick slide of a hand, it got me, and I watched it for a while. I had marks on my finger, and I told Melanie, I said, we got about 5 snakes in the freezer. We actually have snakes in taxidermy magazines. We did a good job on them. Taxidermy catalogs have asked us could they use our snakes in some magazines, but I told her, I said, that's it. We're done. I'm going to finish these, and we ain't done them since. So got to find somebody else on some of them snakes.
Now, Chancy, we're talking about time frames and stuff like that. So the time frames we were talking about earlier were about how long it takes for us to get our finished product. But I want to flip that a little bit. Me and you were talking a couple weeks ago about this, and you had brought something up. One of the most important things, you said, all right, I kill a deer, I kill a stud, and I want to go around and I want to show it off to all my buddies and show everybody, stop off at the corner store with the head hanging out the back. But you had mentioned something, you're like, if there was anything I could tell anybody. And you were talking about how, get that deer processed quicker rather than later, right?
Whoa. Hold on.
Explain that a little bit.
I grew up in this big town called Tallulah, Louisiana. When we killed a deer up there, we put it on the hood or in the back of the truck or the four-wheeler, and we rode around with that dude for at least a week.
Well,
Show it off.
That was
heard
a,
of
that was
I'm
a
just
skull,
telling you,
skull
man.
mount.
Yeah,
I'm
you've
just
heard
telling
of global warming, huh,
Yeah.
Todd? It's hotter nowadays.
We can't do that, you know.
Yeah, it's hotter nowadays. Well, that was in North Louisiana. You're in South Louisiana.
So explain to us a little bit the reasoning why. What happens if we wait and all
Okay,
that?
well, I'm glad you asked that, Jeremy, because, you know, something I try to explain to people is I mentioned earlier we do all our work on the inside of a deer. We mount 550 plus deer heads a year, not counting everything else, but just deer. I'd say that kind of makes us, and I know how this may sound, but we're professionals at it. We know what we're doing when it comes to mounting deer. And if I get a deer cape out of the freezer and it goes to slipping, well, then something's different. Something's wrong there because we haven't changed nothing. You know, we mount tons of them and they're all fine. So if I get a deer cape out and it starts slipping, well, I call the people and I start questioning, hey, how long did you leave your deer out after you killed it? Did you find it the next day? Did you ride around with it? How hot was it? You know, did you hang it up and have to go take care of something before getting it completely skinned and put in the freezer? And you know, most people are pretty honest. You know, I can't say that it's their fault either, but I know we're doing the same thing. But yeah, in South Louisiana, if you kill a deer tomorrow, it's supposed to be 100 degrees. Mm-hmm. Let's say it takes you 3 or 4 hours to let it lay. You go in, you blood trail it. Say you have to get a dog, whatever. That deer 3 or 4 hours now. You drive home with it. You hang it up. Cousin Elroy or Billy wants to come look at it. They're going to walk around it. You're going to tell your hunting story. And listen, I hear a lot of hunting stories. I know hunting stories can take a while. So what I'm getting at is if it takes 7 or 8 hours to get your deer in South Louisiana in 90 to 100 degree weather in the freezer, all right, we have to freeze that deer, work on it, take it out, mount it. There's a lot of freeze, unfreeze. It's a possibility you're going to start slipping hair. So especially in Southwest Louisiana, try to take care of your deer. Get them in the freezer as soon as you possibly can. If you don't have freezer room, get them to us. We have drop-off freezers on our front porch, side porch of our shop, and I wouldn't be scared to say over half our deer ain't dropped off after hours or on weekends. But get it in our freezer. We try to keep it cleaned out for people to drop off. So get it froze. Get it froze. That's a big deal. Get your deer froze.
So you said hair slipping. What you mean by that?
Hair will slip completely out of a deer. If you had a deer hide laying here, if it's started to decompose or bacteria breaks down, you can rub your hand on it and pull every bit of the hair off the hide. There'd be a big bare spot.
On
Okay.
any animal.
Yeah.
Foxes are terrible
Okay.
about it.
Yeah. So take care of it. Get it in the freezer as soon as you can.
Can you ice it?
You can ice it. We picked up a couple deer. You got to watch ice. Yeah, I mean, if you ain't got no choice, that's what you got to do. You
Right.
got to do it. But we used to do, a big ranch out of Texas years ago, and they would have these big hunts come in, and they put these deer in a cooler, okay, not a freezer, a cooler, and listen to what I'm saying. If you put all these deer in a cooler, waiting on everybody else in their group to kill, and it goes into 3 or 4 days, you think cooler, that's protection. That's my deer is fine. It's in a cooler. That's not the case. If it's above 32 degrees and the deer ain't freezing, that means the blood doesn't freeze. That means the blood will break down and bacteria will start. And we picked up these deer. This guy had his freezer cooler set on like 38, 39 degrees, and we picked up 4 or 5 deer from them, and we got them back to our shop. And I'm telling you, every one of them, you could shake the hides, and the hair would just fall off in hunks. I mean, you got to be careful. Just be careful with it.
So for all you guys out there that go on these wild exotic hunts, one thing you may want to check for when you get there is make sure they have adequate freezers. Make sure they're right. Make sure maybe you want to call before chance. You get out there, you paying all these big dollars to go on these big hunts. Hey man, call the guy, lady, whoever, and ask them, do you have a freezer that we can put our deer in? If you're going to be 5 days, you kill on the first day, well, you're not leaving till your buddy kills or whoever.
Yes.
So maybe that's some preventive maintenance that you want to do there. Because I know we go out in West Texas, they have a cooler, and we'll actually stay a day later after we kill because we want to make sure that dude is frozen solid.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, I mean, we want to make sure that hide on that thing is right.
Yep. And there's a couple things like Maryville Outfitters out of Maryville. You know, we kind of started dealing with some of these issues years ago. They went out and bought a the biggest money can buy chest freezer, and they'll put all their deer in there. And you know, this place is in Louisiana, so I mean, they bring us the whole deer head, but they would freeze the whole deer head while the others in the group would kill. Now, with that being said, I've also talked to some people before, and you know, a little bitty chest freezer, say Walmart, you know, you can get one for a couple $100. People will actually have learned to start taking a small generator and a small freezer and load up and go either public land or hunting ranches or even wherever. And what you can do is when you kill that deer, you crank that generator, you get that freezer froze, you put your deer in there, you don't have to continuously run that generator.
Just leave it closed.
That freezer, once it freezes, you can unplug the generator for 10, 12 hours, and that's going to stay froze.
Well, it's just like we do during the hurricane season. You know, hurricane comes through, we lose electricity for a week or 2, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Run generator at night, and then during the day
That's
it stays
correct.
frozen.
Yep, that's right. Just keep taking. Note is to take as good a care of your hide and get it as cold as you can. But yeah, ice. People bring us deer from West Texas and stuff. They're capes. They don't have a freezer, so they'll put it on ice. You know.
So take pictures.
Take pictures.
Take good pictures.
Take
Tell
good
your
pictures.
buddies the stories while looking at the pictures, but take care of the animal
Yep.
quick.
I had a guy come in one time, and you know what a double throat patch is on a whitetail?
Oh yeah.
You know, you got white, and then down here's another. He picked up his deer, and he said, "Is that what they call a double throat patch?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Some people consider that a trophy." He said, "Well, my deer didn't have that." And I went, "Well, when you bring in a deer, we tag the horns, and we skin out that deer. We put a big Ziploc bag that we freeze them in with your name, and so far in 16 years, we've never confused any of them." I said, "Pretty sure it's your deer." He said, "No, that ain't mine. Didn't have I'd know that." So I got him to pull up a picture, and he zoomed in and said, "Well, it did." So, you know, people are looking at the horns. They're not looking at scars. They're not
Right.
looking at double throat patches. They're not looking at fight marks, stuff like that. So examine your deer. Know what you're bringing in. And when you pick it up, shouldn't be no surprises.
Yeah.
You know.
So we're getting close to the end of our time, but I do have a couple questions.
All
One,
right.
just, man, in the world of social media, I mean, I'm not going to down talk it because we're doing this for social media and stuff like that, but in the world of social media, it's gotten really popular to kill a 150, 160, 200-inch deer, right?
Yeah.
Even so, to the point where have you found, let me kind of rephrase this, have you found where there's somebody, they kill, say, a 140, 130 even, that's a stud for them, like biggest deer of their life.
Stud for me.
Have you found where people maybe are hesitant to bring a deer in or to get it mounted because it doesn't live up to these
100%,
social media
100%.
standards these days?
Yes, 100%. We were just having a conversation earlier in the shop that a man had called us about a complete albino deer that he just killed, and it was his first deer to ever kill in his life. And
That's awesome.
He was really proud of it. I think it was a 6-point or something. And I told Kobe, I said, "Well, he might as well get ready if he posts it on social media." And Kobe's like, "Why? You know, it's albino."